Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you might be in the world. My name's Joyce Fair of the 1010 Formula, and today, thanks to Sophia Soul, we have the amazing Kalei Beamon from across the seas. Now, Kalei has agreed to share with us how the training called Release the Alpha from Within has impacted on her life and business. So I'm really thrilled to have you here today, Kalei. And maybe first of all you could just tell us a little bit about your background and then the journey to where you are today.
Sure. I am from the U.S., so hello, all of my UK friends. It's so awesome to get to hang out with you guys and my also my fellow 1010 Formula team members. I don't get to see you guys very often, just from the time zones or what have you. So I'm just delighted for the invitation to hang out and connect further. So thank you for that. I am currently living in Los Angeles, California. I was originally from Michigan, and I lived in Chicago for a number of years before I came out to LA. And I've been online for about a year now, and my journey is a little bit. I guess everybody has a bit of a different journey, but my path was, I was working in Chicago for a production company. My background's in video production, and for a number of years, and that company closed. It went out of business, like a lot of businesses, had fallen to due to the economy, what have you. And when I got the call on, 2 o'clock on a Friday from the CEO saying, as a close of business that day, the doors of the company were closed. You're going to be out of a job, and oh, by the way, there's no money for severance and no additional checks, so that was kind of it. And don't let the door hit you on the way out. So it was stressful and it was difficult because the company was basically in struggling for 2 years. So for 2 years, I was watching my friends and colleagues get laid off. The workload for the rest of us getting more and more hours, and just more and more stress, and the bills weren't being paid at the company, and blah blah blah. And so it was kind of a relief, but then kind of an awakening, I guess, in that moment to realize, okay, here I am. I spent all that time and energy working for somebody else, and then I get laid off with absolutely nothing to show for it. So I decided in that moment that was never going to happen to me again. I was going to take charge of my own life. I certainly couldn't fumble the ball any worse than they did, on my own efforts, and I liked my odds better working for myself. So that's exactly what I did. I started freelancing as a video producer. And I did that for a number of years in Chicago. Had an opportunity to see the world during that time. It was an amazing journey for me to be a part of and to get into the sphere of self-employment. But I also had a huge passion for acting, and that's been something that's been in my heart since I was 5. So I just got to a point where I decided it was now or never, and to pursue that path. So I packed a suitcase, booked a one-way ticket, moved to LA. So in that whole journey, I also needed to find a way to pay the bills and make ends meet, and I wanted to do that without ever having to take on a regular 9-to-5. Certainly not in production, because I know the hours. I know the hours are anywhere from 12 to 18-hour days if you're going to work on a show, and that would completely defeat the purpose of my being here because I would not be available for auditions or what have you. So I started looking for work. Went on Craigslist like most people do, and I found myself after going through the ads at an opportunity meeting, and I knew nothing about the network marketing industry. I knew nothing about MLM at the time when I went to that meeting, and I wasn't even sure I could do it, but they showed me the comp plan, which of course was 5 to get 5 to get 5. And I liked the idea of it. I liked the idea of it. I didn't know anything about it, but I liked the idea of it. So I said, okay, sign me up, because I loved, if like Dave said, if I had to get 5 to get 5, and you'll be rich. Yeah.
I know, it sounds so good, doesn't it?
I know, it sounds amazing. It sounds so good. So I said, sign me up. And that was in like December of 2011. And then I had the holiday season to kind of figure out what I just gotten myself into. So I was at my parents' house over the holidays, online, researching the company, researching the industry, and I'm like, because I had no idea what an MLM company was before I signed the papers. I had no idea. I'm just like, I need to make money. I want to flexible hours. I want to make money, and I like this comp plan. So what do I have to do? So, you know, I struggled after that. You know, I really, really did. You know, the whole traditional path of what they tell you to do in terms of make a list of your family and friends and, you know, bring them over for a party, yada, yada, yada. First of all, I lived in LA, so I didn't have any family and friends here. And even if I did, I'm not sure they would be the best business partners, to be perfectly honest. So I was like, well, I'm going to starve if I have to rely on my family and friends to pull this off. So let me, you know, see about, you know, online. And so I found, you know, one company that was, you know, promoted attraction marketing, and I still struggled because my sponsor in that company, I found them, you know, like from a, you know, capture page, so it wasn't like somebody I had a relationship with, and I never heard from that sponsor ever, and you know, I struggled because I didn't know the industry, I didn't know which end was up or how to, you know, like take the training. The training was great, but I didn't know how to apply the training to translate that into money. So I really struggled, but in that course of time, I met a leader who completely changed my life, and that leader is Darren Little. And Darren, I started following with him.
Darren.
Yes, love Darren. And I was first introduced to his Unleash the Alpha Within program, not knowing it was the Unleash the Alpha Within when I saw it, but he did a webinar on that with this other company that we were in. And I started following him because I was so intrigued by the training, by being able to tap into your own reality. And also at that point in my life, I was really struggling, and I needed to figure out, you know, why my outer world was such a mess. And it was, and you know, the inner world, the outer world is a reflection of your inner world. So I needed to look at what was going on with me. And so I was just really, really intrigued. And when the opportunity came up to work with him, and really the attraction was the personal development, was the Unleash the Alpha Within program, I jumped on it, and that vehicle to work with him happened to be Empower Network. So I didn't know anything about Empower when I joined, and I quite frankly didn't care, because I wanted to work with Darren, and I wanted to get this alpha training, and I wanted to understand how we create our own realities, and how, you know, how you can manifest, tap into your own power to manifest whatever it is that you want in your life. So I got into Empower, went through the trainings, got into the 10, upgraded right away, got into the inner circle, and was a part of the 10-10 formula team, and went through the 10-10 formula training, which, you know, I have to say was enormously helpful to me. You know, this was the first time that I'd ever felt part of a team, or ever felt like connected to anything in this, really in this industry. I mean, I had a team with my first network marketing company when I first joined in December, but it was different. I didn't feel as connected to them as I did with the 10-10 formula, certainly with Darren. So it was just an experience that I was excited to be a part of it. So I started going through Unleash the Alpha, you know, and it's interesting because you have these kind of grandiose ideas that, you know, your life is going to change, everything's going to change in a second. You're going to watch the video, and you're going to, you know, make your vision board, and, you know, bada boom, bada bing, you know, the walls are going to come down, and the rewards are going to come flooding to you, and it's only going to take, you know, 2 weeks or 2 weeks to 90 days tops, and life is going to be grand. You know, and it's interesting because it's like it can, but, you know, it kind of depends on where you are personally in the journey. And for me, you know, it's been a long road, but it's been an incredibly rewarding road. I've gone through before I never really did personal development, and even when I was working for myself back in Chicago after I got laid off, I was I would say I was like my own employee, if that makes sense. I didn't quite have like the entrepreneur mindset, you know, because I came from being an employee to really just doing the same thing but just working for myself, so I didn't have anybody to answer to. But I wasn't thinking differently. I wasn't feeling things differently in my body, you know, in terms of the physiology and belief. I wasn't working on myself in terms of personal development like I am now. So, you know, I wouldn't say, I mean, I've always been one of those people that's always wanted to be self-employed and be an entrepreneur. I just didn't know how, in terms of like all the components that made it. So working with Darren and his mentorship has really taught me what it takes to be an entrepreneur, what it takes to be a leader, what it takes to be a millionaire, if that's your goal, which is mine. So, you know, I had a long ways to go, you know, and so I just dove in and I went through, you know, the trainings and, you know, I made my vision board. The very first vision board I made was before I started working with him when I first saw that first training. It was awful. You know, and I showed it to him one time. He's like, "What is this?" You know, he's like, "It's cluttered. It's cluttered, and it's a mess. It cannot be cluttered." So, do you see 3D here? I was like, he was a lot nicer about it than that. But the bottom line was, do it again. So, I did it again right away, and you know, and I've done a couple of boards. I actually just redid another one. So, like last week, and it's interesting because. It's still, up until like last week when I redid that one vision board, I don't know if I thought I was following the directions, but, you know, when I went back and listened to it again, I realized, okay, maybe I embellished a few things here. You know, he says get magazines and sit down and flip, you know, and pull. And so it's the energy, you know, from doing it all at once. And, you know, I was out, you know, television. Okay, I want this on my board. I want to get this magazine. So I want that image. And I want that image. I had already pre-produced. I guess it's my producer instinct. It's like, okay, I know what I want my board to look like, you know, and I'm gonna get these, you know, amazing. I'm gonna get an Oscar and an Emmy, and you know, this great red carpet shots. I'm gonna put all this amazing stuff, which is not. If I went back and listened, I've listened to this video like at least 20 to 30 times. So it's not like I haven't heard this information, but sometimes you can only hear what you're able to hear, you know, when you're able to hear it. And so, and the thing about it was, I wasn't as connected to the board as he tells you that you should be. Like, you know, he describes the feeling that you should have in your body and an energy bolt. And I could always see my board in 3D, and I could feel things sometimes, but I never got. You know, I had struggled to get to that place where he's talking about. I'm like, well, maybe it's because I didn't exactly follow the directions, you know. And so I'm like, okay, let me go and do this again exactly the way he told me to do it, and stop, you know, trying to produce it and make this, you know, this piece. I'm like, oh well, it looks beautiful from an aesthetic standpoint. I'm like, I love looking at it. You know, it's a very lovely, you know, happy board, and everything that I have on it is what I want. But you know, I you know, it wasn't effective, and if it's not effective, who cares? You know, it can just be nice wallpaper. So, you know, and so you have to be patient with yourself and understand that it's, you know, it might take you a few takes to get something right, but just, you know, and it might take you listening to the training 20 or 30, 40, 50 times, whatever. I mean, who cares? No one's counting. You know, there's no ticker on there that says how many views you've watched it, you know, and you just need to watch it for however long it takes you for information to sink in. And there's something that's really also powerful about, you know, information like that. It's like you can hear it once and then hear it on the 20th time and hear it in a completely different way, because there's so many levels and so many layers, and you only really hear what you're ready to hear at a certain point in time. So it has been a journey. It has been incredibly rewarding. You know, we talk a lot about intentions, you know, and setting goals and being clear. You know, writing down what you want, going out and doing, you know, some of the things that he tells you to do, like going out to the car dealership. I resisted that for the longest time, and it wasn't until about a month ago that I went and sat. Well, about 6 weeks ago, I been to the Lamborghini dealership like 3 times. The first time I went, I didn't even touch the car. I just like walked around and looked at it, like, ooh, you're pretty. You know, I was like, I didn't even touch it. Is that what he said to do? Nope. That's not what he said to do. But that's what I did. I went there. I just looked at it. I was like, you know, I wasn't in my power to go even so much as put my fingerprint on the car. I'm like, what the hell, you know? And it just the second time I went, I sat in it and I did my visualization. And the third time I went to a different dealership and I was talking shop with the guy. I'm like, okay, how much do I need to get in it? I was like, he fired it up. You know, the feeling was amazing. And when I left there, for the first time in my life, I saw a Lamborghini on the road. Like, I live in Los Angeles. I would have thought I would have seen Lamborghinis everywhere, you know, in LA. No, I've never seen one before, ever. But, you know, about 10 minutes after I left that dealership, I'm driving by a parking meter, and lo and behold, there is a red Lamborghini. And I'll be like, I'll be damned. This is like really works. Because I was like, when you're in the energy field, you know, you start to attract the things to you. So, you know, that was just within the last 6 weeks. And then, you know, with the whole thing about setting intentions, when we were in Chicago, you know, we had that event, Empower Network event in Chicago, and when those video contests were announced, because I had been on this path for almost a year at that point about setting intentions, and David Wood talks a lot about that all the time, about the power of setting intentions, and Darren says that in the trainings, and it's always about everything starts with your intention. So when the contest was announced, I set an intention. I said I'm going to be on that stage in Denver, and I said it was going to happen through these video contests, and it didn't happen with the first one I entered, but it happened with the second one. And it was just an incredible experience. So I know I've kind of gone on for a bit, but I just wanted to give you, I guess, maybe a not so brief overview of my road and my journey here.
No, not at all. It's so interesting, and congratulations about your video. I mean, that's absolutely fantastic.
Thank you. Thank you.
Really, really brilliant. So professional. I thought I am going to get to that stage.
Yes, you are, and that's the exact language. I am. The I am proclamations are so unbelievably powerful. And it's interesting, we talk about that at Unleash the Alpha with the vision board and the proclamations and the I am statements. And as you go through this journey, you start to realize that the two most powerful words really that you can say to yourself are I am. It's like, the higher, whether you're spiritual, if you believe in God or Buddha or the higher creator or whatever you want to call it, it's I am. And you have to monitor that self-talk. And, one of the things that I've really been over the last, and it took me a while. I mean, understand, I've been working with Darren and on this program since June of 2012, so a little bit over a year. So this has been a journey for me. It's not something that happened, within the first 90 days. I mean, can it happen for people in the first? Yeah, it can. It didn't for me. That doesn't mean it doesn't work. And, it just depends on how well you listen. do you do the exercises? And are you working on yourself mentally? And so I had a ways to go, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with being where you're at, because it doesn't affect where you're going. Only what you think and your thoughts now affect what you're going. And as you start reading those books, Ask and It Is Given and Secrets of the Millionaire Mind. I mean, I have Ask and It Is Given. I'm reading it again for probably like the 5th time in a year. Always picking up new information. But back to the proclamations, it's like, okay, when you start to monitor your self-talk, you really realize how you stop saying stuff to yourself that's not kind, that's not positive, because it's so disempowering, and you don't realize that you're doing it until you start going through this path and start realizing how much power your words have, because it's that thought-directed emotion that generates the feelings, and when you let your mind and your thoughts get cluttered with negativity, when you start to realize what that's doing to your life, you are more motivated to stop doing it. It's
scary, actually, how often I find myself thinking negatively, and I have to stop. Think, no, positive. So do you have any daily routines that you actually practice, Kalei?
I do. I get up in the morning and I read. I do my half an hour of reading first thing in the morning. It just seems to be the best time for me to do that. We also do our mirror work that was, recommended from the Louise Hay video, You Can Heal Your Life, which is, get in the mirror and tell yourself, I love you unconditionally, just the way that you are, or in your name, I love you, Kalei, just the way that you are. And I will admit, in the beginning, it was hard for me to do. It was hard for me to look at myself in the mirror and say that. And I was just like, are you freaking kidding me? I mean, I just felt like, it was hard. I felt very uncomfortable doing that from the beginning. And then there's also another one, I love you, Kalei, even though you don't feel worthy of fill in the blank. And for me, it was greatness. And again, that was hard for me to say, but you just keep doing it. If you want results, you just keep doing it. No one said it was going to be easy. No one said you're going to like it all. But now it's just like part of my routine. And so I get up and I do that. I started switching it to the first thing in the morning. I'd been waiting originally, but I think Darren had suggested doing it right away. So I just switched to doing that first thing in the morning. Then, I do my proclamations out loud, and I also wrote my proclamations on my refrigerator. So I kind of go there first. I just kind of read them, and then I get from my vision board, stare at my vision board, and then go through the whole vision board process with my proclamations, and making sure that you that energy flow in you. Like it's more than just, you know, I am fantastic. It's like you have to. It's not like just screaming at your board. You have to really move into it and own it. And it's a different experience. And you know, I wasn't always. One of the reasons why I struggled with that particular assignment was because I was not necessarily owning it. Like you can say the words, but you have to own the words. And there's a difference in that. And sometimes it just takes a while before you're in a place where you can own it. And that's okay. You know, I think a lot of times it's easy to get frustrated or beat up on yourselves because, you know, things aren't happening as quickly as you might want them to happen, or you might think that they should happen. Like you know, you hear someone else, you know, boom, right out of the gate, you know, within weeks they're soaring, and you're still, you know, at that place. And it's easy because I felt that way too in the beginning. I was like, gosh, what is wrong with me? You know, I'm doing the assignments and it's not working. What's wrong with me? And you know what? Sometimes it's just nothing. Nothing's wrong with you. You know, and one of the things that Louise Hay said, not Louise Hay, in Asking and Is Given, they say you can't go from you know, the bottom of the staircase. They have each of those emotional levels, you know, like, you know, fear is at the bottom and love is at the top. And you can't go from fear to love in one step. You have to move up the step, you know, step by step or gradually. You can only reach for what is the next step that's closest to you. You can't just all of a sudden leap. And so depending on where you are, you might be at the bottom of the staircase, and that is okay. It's just going to take you a little longer to get to the top than somebody who might be on stair number 8 or 9. And everybody's different, so you cannot compare yourself to other people, because that just, you know, that just puts you in your own, makes you kind of doubt yourself, and makes you kind of say, you know, makes you feel badly about yourself, and that's, you know, disempowering. It doesn't matter where anybody else is on the journey, because you don't know when they were at the bottom themselves. You know, they could have been maybe taken them 10 years to get from stair 20 to stair 10, and now they're skipping up, you know, 10 to 1 pretty fast. You don't know. You have no idea. But you know, that was one of the things that I just kind of had to. Once I understood that and read that again, and I didn't hear that the first time I read that book. I think it might have been around the 4th or 5th time of reading that book that I got that message. So another reason why you have to keep reading things over and over again, because there's so much information you can't possibly absorb it all right away, but you get what you need to get on the first round, then you read it again. So you just have to keep going with that. So that has been my ritual, really. In the morning, and then, you know, I'll do proclamations again in the evening. Yeah. I think it is very difficult in the early days to really see yourself succeeding. What it was for me. But as you say, if you do the steps daily and you keep feeding your mind with all the positive things, you will get there eventually. And I think that's what people have to understand, as you say. One of the things I will say is it really is a daily practice. You know, do not underestimate the power of taking action daily. You're not going to see growth from day to day, but now looking back a year, now that I've been in this on this path for a year, looking back to the person that I was a year ago, I've come a long way. You know, I've come a really long way in that year, and I didn't always see it, and I didn't always feel it, you know, during the times. And I've been frustrated, and I still have a ways to go. You know, I'm certainly not, you know, the master or the guru or anything at this point. But, you know, what I will tell you is this: is that I have my rituals, and I have my, you know, a huge respect for this work, to the point where I'm not going to let it slide no matter what, because I know how impactful it is. And, you know, just being in a place where you're monitoring your self-talk and your you know, when you're off your game, and being able to wake up first thing in the morning and assess how you're feeling, because, you know, it starts with thoughts, but it's the feeling that really brings the power to it all. It's how you feel about yourself, and how you feel about what it is you're doing, your own beliefs in your body. And sometimes, you know, we spend all that time thinking and ignoring how we're feeling. You know, just because it's either painful, or we just think, okay, I'll just keep thinking happy thoughts, and that's a good starting point. But if you're not feeling that, then what it really means is you're really thinking about something negative, and you're just not acknowledging that. Because, you know, if your thoughts, you were really genuinely feeling you know, motivation and empowering thoughts, you would be feeling that in your body. So you let your feelings be your compass for what you're actually thinking. And sometimes it's hard because you can swear up and down, I'm thinking positive. You know, I'm like, I know I'm thinking happy thoughts, but if you're feeling anxious or scared or worried, then you're not. And you just, you know, you're focusing on what you don't want. You know, and that's, you know, you can kind of have, it can be going on simultaneously. You might be, you know, doing a task that's, you know, writing your blog post or listening to your inner circle audio or whatever. It's still feeling worry in you. It's just because it's just your body telling you you're still focusing on what you don't want. And it's depending on where you come from. You know, it takes a lot of time and attention to change that. Because that's a lot of us are conditioned to focus on what we don't want or to see the worst. Or if you're, you know, you watch the media, the news, or what have you, they tell you all the time how bad things are, and they put worry and fear in you. And you know, all I can tell you is to turn that mess off. I have not watched the news in probably a year. Don't care. I mean, you know, if there's something that happens, I will hear about it. Trust me. Facebook is a great news feed. People will tell you right off the bat if something good or bad or shattering is going on. You know, you go to the gas station, they've got those little TV monitors at the pump. They'll tell you what's going on in the world, even if you don't want to hear it. So, and you know, people might say, well, don't you know? Shouldn't you know what's going on in the world? I mean, you're like uninformed or whatever. It's like, well, listen, what is that information doing for you? How is it, you know, how are you, changing the situation? Because, I mean, 9 times out of 10, 9.5 times out of 10, you can't do anything about it anyway, except sit around and worry about it and feel bad. So if you can't change it, you know, then don't sit around and focus about it. You know, it's just put your energy and attention on the things that are going to get you to where you want to go. And so, you know, I make no apologies for not watching the news or reading the newspaper or whatever. I read a lot of other things that are empowering that I can turn around and share with other people to empower them. And hearing about, you know, celebrity gossip or, you know, negative stuff and making people feel like, you know, they have no hope isn't part of the game plan for me. So, you know, I just say turn it off. Turn it off.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, some years ago, we actually didn't watch television for about 2 years, and it was the best time of our lives, really, because, as you say, it's so negative, and so we weren't distracted at all by that negativity, and we were just focusing on what we were doing, and we were so happy. It's amazing how it can change the way that you feel. Although people poo-poo the idea, but it's so true.
Yeah, no, it really comes down to feeling. You know, really. I mean, that's all I could. That's if I can say one of the biggest things that I've learned, and I've heard, and it's weird because I've heard it. You know, I hear it. I've been hearing it for a year. One of my acting teachers, one of my acting mentors, kept saying, you know, thoughts, feelings, and actions must be in alignment. And I'm like, okay, I had it on a Post-it. You know, here it is, right here, actually, my Post-it that's been up in my wall for, like, I don't know if you can see it, but it says something like, yeah, thoughts, feelings, actions must always align. You know, this has been on my wall for, like, I don't know, well over a year, and I finally got it. You know, like, what it all means. It's like, intellectually I get it, but then you hear it, it's like, okay, in a different way. And that was from my, you know, from my acting mentor in terms of, you know, she was business and acting coach, and it all has to align, it all has to be congruent, and sometimes it's just a little itty bitty thing, a shift. Sometimes people think that, you know, there's this huge dramatic change that has to take place, and you know what? That's not necessarily true. It could just be a tiny, tiny, tiny shift. It's like that radio station Darren always talks about. You know, if you got it set to 99.2 and you want it to be a 99.3, if you're still on 99.2, you're just on static. It's just a little itty bitty adjustment, and it's just, you know, you figuring out what that is.
Yeah, fantastic. So I've really enjoyed the talk and your journey. I mean, it's absolutely fantastic, and I hope. Well, I know I will be as successful as you are.
Yes.
And I really appreciate you coming here this evening and chatting to us. Have you got one final thought at all? Maybe the best tip that you could give someone to help them along their journey and become successful?
First of all, I tell people to be kind to yourself. You know, we are our own worst critics. You know, it's interesting, you know, on this path, you know, how many times a day I've caught myself saying things that are nice to myself, you know, and you know, if you talk to your friends like that, you wouldn't have any. You know, so you know, you start to really be nice to yourself and forgiving of yourself and accepting of who you are. And come to terms with that and not worry about that so much. You know, taking action every day is important. You just have to do it. You just make it part of your routine. Get put yourself in a schedule and be, you know, and just commit to doing it. Whether it feels comfortable or not, you just got to trust in the process. You know, trust that the universe wants to help you be the best that you can be. You are. It's kind of easy to think that, oh gosh, you know, who wants to see me be successful, or you know, this isn't going to work or whatever. You gotta. It's shifting into a new state of trust. In trusting in yourself, trusting in others, trusting in the higher power that they're going to be there to catch you, you know, and lift you up. And sometimes people don't want to let go of that baggage because they're afraid that, you know, what will happen if they do. And only good things are going to happen if you do. It's just, you know, we all carry around this guck that's holding us down, and at some point you're just going to really break through. You have to let that go, and just understand that you have your own purpose, that you have your own mission, and to live fully, you want to live in that place. So my encouragements, my final words would be for people to really to be kind to themselves and to make sure that they're always, you know, living from that authentic place, and to really tap into their feelings. You know, start to really pay attention to how you're feeling, because when you are in tune with that, then you can make the shift. I mean, I remember Eric Green saying something on an interview I did with him not too long ago. Like in the beginning, he would notice that he would get out of bed like ready to fight the world. It's like, okay, everybody's everybody's gonna have to. I don't say have to. Everything's gonna be a battle. You know, I got to fight for this and fight for that. And then he's like, wait a minute, I'm just setting myself up for a fight all day. And who did that? It was just me. You know, it was just stuff that you make up in your own head. So it's just recognizing those patterns that you have with yourself. You know. And start to ask if they are empowering you or disempowering you. You know, a lot of times we have those beliefs that are put in our heads from our families and generations before, of, you know, how things should be and, you know, what's right and what's wrong. Ask yourself if that's really your belief, or is that a belief that someone told you that you just accepted, and start really challenging some of these things that you believe to be true, because the more you start to challenge them, the more walls and layers you knock down, and it's a nice little journey of self-exploration and self-discovery, and be okay with it, you know, being a journey. You know, we all grow in different speeds, and we'll get there. You know, we'll get there on time and in due time if we are stay committed to ourselves and committed to that path. So that would be my final thoughts for people for today.
Wow, that's fantastic, Kalei. It's such a lot of fabulous information there. Can't thank you enough. Would you like to say how people can get in touch with you if they want to?
Oh, sure. I'm easy to reach on Facebook, facebook.com/Kalei Beamon. You can also catch me on Skype, Kalei Beamon. I keep it real simple. Email KaleiBeamon@gmail.com. Real simple. You know, YouTube. Actually, my YouTube channel is Inspiration Station 26, but I'm pretty sure I'm like the only Kalei Beamon out there. So I'm not hard to find at all. So yeah, just go ahead and hit me up on any of those channels, and I would just love to hear with you and love to connect.
Well, that's fantastic. Thank you so much, Kalei, and really appreciate it. And I look forward to speaking to you very soon as well. Again.
Oh, good. Bye, Neil. Bye, Sophia. It's been awesome.
Bye.
Awesome. Thank you for the invite. Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Thank you. Bye.